a very rare condition, but they find their way to me. Somehow they find their way to me. So I see it all the time. Once a month I get a new one, or once every 2 weeks. So I see new Janson Foot all the time. Okay, so now I'm starting to construct the orthotic. So here's the cast, nice and smooth and pretty looking. So we have our raised joint here, because that's what one of the jobs of the tendon is to lower the joint. So we already have done that work for that tendon, so that when the foot lands, the tendon will say, oh wow, my work is done, I don't have to work. And if he's not working as hard, he's not going to pull on the bone right here. So this is his home base. He inserts right here. This is a navicular, and I don't know if you can see all that plaster that I had added here. So this makes this point of the foot higher. And then the other thing I had done was I had raised the base of the fifth metatarsal, which is this, so that this tendon that inserts on the other side of the foot, you see how these two guys come in together, he'll hit this wall and stop moving, so that helps stabilize the foot. So, and the more stable the foot is and the less work the foot has to do, the better at this point when the patient is healing. Eventually you want the foot actually to be flexible, so you don't want this a year from now, so you have to make a new orthotic. But that's what happens there. And then this is lower here, lower here, higher here. You see that? So that the that comes down. So that's the finished cast. And I'm starting to add rubber now. And I use this rubber for like every orthotic, so every orthotic looks the same, you know. But it's a great material because it lasts a long time. Because, well, in this case, this patient's going to need a new orthotic in a year. But normally we want orthotics to last many, many years, because this is a lot of work, so you don't want to have to do this again too soon. So this material lasts a long time. It's really good. And it really forms to the cast really well. So now what I'm doing is I'm adding a second layer, also rubber. And I'm using rubber material, synthetic rubber, because this is nice and soft for the patient. And this foot hasn't done work in a year or something, so it's not going to take too much support well. So you want to keep everything really soft. A lot of support, but very soft. So here's our high points on the cast. Remember I told you this is the high point, this and this. See, there's the tripod. And that's going to keep the foot very stable. So when the foot lands, there's not going to be a lot of rotation and movement that way, which is what's irritating the tibialis posterior right there. And then now what I'm doing is I'm actually removing some of the material here too, because I want to keep all the pressure off that navicular. A little bit of support, but you know, not too much, just a little bit. So that's what I'm working on now, is reducing material under the navicular bone right there. That's where his pain is. So I'm grinding this a little bit. Always put a mask on, you know, you don't want to breathe in any dust. This is a real N95, not the silly things I see patients wearing. This is a real N95 with the over the. So now I've really thinned that down. I don't want to remove it completely because I want to give a little bit of support so that navicular can't move. But it's certainly less than around it, you see. And now I'm going to add cork. So what I did was I thinned it around here. I want to have some support there because I got to keep that navicular up as high as I can. But it's thinner here than it is right around it. So it's much thicker here than it is right here. I don't know if you can see that. But the point is that you have a little bit of support and cushion right there, but not too much pressure at that spot. Okay, and then I'm going to add another layer. Now I'm going to use cork. And the reason why I like to use cork is because I can change the orthotic tremendously with cork. And in my other workshop, which is in the office. So when the patient comes in, I get two pieces of information. What the foot looks like and how the patient is walking, like what's going on clinically. And the other piece of information I get is the patient telling me how they feel. So the patient will say, oh, I feel great, or I think I need more support, or you're giving me too much support. So I really, really need to be able to alter the orthotic.
In a
So,
few weeks, if the time.
I'm going to alter the orthotic when the patient comes back. So I like the patient to come back a few weeks after they have the orthotics, because I want to be able to parse out what needs to be worked on with the orthotic versus what the, So I have to figure out what's the difference between the patient getting used to the orthotic, because it's going to feel so strange, versus what needs to be changed on the orthotic, like where could we do better with the orthotic. And that's in the follow-up appointment. So the follow-up appointment is a few weeks after the patient has the orthotics. And then say 4 weeks or 6 weeks after that, this patient will have to come back like 3 or 4 times before we get it, get the support and just the little areas just right. Tell you what I'm doing. I'm remelting the orthotic actually, because I've formed it the way I wanted, but the cast is king. So I gotta make sure everything is really shaped to the cast. So I'm actually gonna remelt it again before I add my next layer. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm remelting the orthotic. Is king. We bow to the cast. Okay, and here's my basically molten cork. And in the old days, they used to make this out of liquid latex, but now it's liquid nylon actually. So here's my little pieces. I have to use all these little pieces because I can't buy this anymore. Nobody does this work anymore. So I can't find a new big piece of this red stuff because nobody does this work anymore. I have to make do with what I can get. Okay, so now I'm going to form the cork. The way I form the cork, this is in the old days they used to do this. They form the cork. The old men, I saw the old men doing this, oh my gosh, like 30 years ago. They used to use hammers to mold the cork. And it's very liquidy actually. So now what this does is it actually makes the cork very dense. And the denser it is, the longer it lasts. So it's very important to do this, because then your orthotic's not going to fall apart in 2 or 3 years. And 30 years ago when I was first making orthotics, I didn't know. I saw this done, but I didn't know why they did it. And then I just, like 10 years later, after having to make a new orthotic after only 3 years, said, hey, let me try what those old guys are doing. And then, lo and behold, after making another 100 orthotics, I found out that if you do this, smush the cork down, the cork is way more dense, and the orthotic lasts at least twice as long as not doing this, if not 3 times longer. So it's really important to compress the cork with great force. Like I said, in the old days, you used to actually use a hammer and do it. But I found rolling it with a piece of wood is just as good. So now the irony is, I'm making this heavy-duty orthotic, but actually this guy, he's going to need a new orthotic in a year, because I have to put his foot back in a functional position after he heals up. But I can't help myself. I just want to make a really good orthotic. We're going to make this one last. Okay, so now we just let it cool. Put a cold rag on it. get wet. And then it cools faster. The faster it cools, the better. It stays nice and tense. Okay, so now I have added these two pieces. I put the cork on, and I also added these two pieces. When you add to the bottom of an orthotic, that's called extrinsic posting. So extrinsic means like outside. So it's outside the shell of the orthotic, so extrinsic posting. Where you saw in the cast, everything I added in the cast, which was this and this and this, that's intrinsic posting. So it means inside the body of the orthotic. Intrinsic posting, you can give a lot of support, but it's very comfortable for the patient. So when you add extrinsic posting like this, you have to be very careful. You don't, hit the patient too hard. So you can see this is the area of pain. So we have no, it's thinner there, and then it's thicker around it because it'll help. The area around this part of the foot will bear less weight. You see that? But now I'm going to make everything nice and smooth, and I've got to maintain my, my surface to go in the shoe flat. You see that? So I'm going to grind it to get a nice flat surface so it fits in the shoe nicely, and I get the angle that I want on the foot. So now I'm going to do that. Put your mask on. Don't breathe in dust. You see, I got to keep that angle. See, it looks very crooked here. Looks like it's just by them turning the heel bone this way. I also wanted to explain one more thing. Remember how I told you that I had to work on this tendon here? This tendon is called peroneus brevis, the one that inserts on the outside of the foot. And that is the antagonist to tibialis posterior. They're antagonists to each other. So I have to get him to stop working because there's a reflex in tendons. When the antagonist fires, there's a protective reflex in the tendon. So the antagonist will reflexively contract when the other guy, his partner in crime, has a muscular contraction. So it's actually a big part of the a solution to this problem is actually to stop the antagonist from working, and that's how I do it. The bone is there, and the tendon can't move the base of the fifth metatarsal. So stopping the antagonist from firing is a big part of the solution to getting this tendon to stop firing. They have to work. That has to work together. I hope that makes sense. I hope that's interesting to you, because I hope it's interesting to you. It's so interesting to me. It took me many years to figure it out, and a lot of patients, treating so many patients with Janson's foot. I was good at the beginning, but little by little, treating all these people, I just got better and better at it. It's a very rare condition, but they find their way to me. Somehow they find their way to me. So I see it all the time. Once a month I get a new one, or once every 2 weeks. So I see new Janson Foot all the time. Believe it or not, I'm only like halfway done. It takes a long time to carve my way through it. I put a lot more cork on it than I need, because now, like a sculptor working through a piece of rock to make a statue or something, they're gonna, more of the rock is gonna be on the ground. I do the same thing with the cork because I'm grinding away, but it allows me to carve my way down to put the support where I need it on the foot. So that's why it takes so long to grind the cork away. So it's about halfway done. I mean, you can see it's still very rough. I definitely gotta thin this down so it can fit in the shoe and everything. I didn't do that yet. I'm gonna flatten out the toe so it fits in the shoe nice. Now the other thing is this is a very big orthotic. This is very, this is going to take up a lot of mass or volume inside the shoe. So the patient will have to wear very particular kind of shoes for the next year. He's going to have to wear a roomy sneaker and roomy boot, shoes like that. And a boot is really good because it gives a lot of lateral support to the foot. So the foot sits perfect on the orthotic. So that's the bad news for the patient. He's going to have to be very particular about his shoes, what he's wearing for the next year. And then next year I'll make a smaller regular orthotic, and then the patient can wear sexy shoes or whatever kind of shoes they want to wear. So, but that's the bad news, is this is a big orthotic and it's only going to fit into certain shoes because I have to get everything just right.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. Do you feel stable?
There is one thing, yeah, pretty stable. There's one thing I want. Like here, there's like a pain and a pressure.
Yeah,
when
let's
walking.
suck that up a little bit.
Suck it up? Okay.
Yeah, suck it up, because I'm making it work hard.
Yeah. So
because that's just the end. There's no tendon there, so making that work hard.
Yeah. So aside from that sensation that I just described, that actually felt very good.
Now, if you tell me in 3 weeks from now that you still hate it, then I'll do something. See if you can suck it up and take it.
No, that's fine.
You know what it is? You know how you understand my explanation of why I'm doing this?
Yeah. No, I think I did.
Yeah, so I'm making it. I put the weight right there because there's no tibialis posterior there.
Yeah, right. Got it.
See, he's coming in like here. Comes in here, and it comes in on these bones too.
Got it. Okay. You're a whiz. I have these laced pretty loosely right now. Should I tighten these up some?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay.
Now leave them loose.
Okay.
It's
Great.
weird how like if you keep looser is better because the foot gets so tired and you haven't been using it much lately.
Yeah.
So the foot gets tired. So it's better to have loose laces.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.